The rise and the fall of Christopher Noth. There are few actors whose careers have been as recognizable, as steady, and as culturally embedded as Christopher Noth's. For decades, he wasn't just a television actor, he was television. He was authority, he was romance. He was power, he was stability. From the streets of New York on Law and Order, to the complicated love story that defined an entire generation on Sex and the City, to the polished political drama of The Good Wife, Christopher Noth represented a very specific kind of man, intelligent, composed, mature, successful. The kind audiences trusted, which is exactly why What Happened Next shocked Hollywood and viewers around the world. Because when someone who has played the dependable man for over 30 years suddenly becomes the center of controversy, it forces us to ask a difficult question. Were we watching the character, or were we believing the man? Today, we're taking a deep, honest look at the rise, the peak, and the sudden fall of Christopher Noth. Not sensationalized, not rushed, but fully understood. Because this story is about more than one actor. It's about fame, power, public perception, and how quickly everything can change. Let's begin where all long careers do, before the fame. Christopher Noth was born in Madison, Wisconsin, but his upbringing was anything but typical. His father was a marketing executive and insurance agent who traveled often, exposing Noth to different environments early in life. But tragedy struck when his father died in a car accident when Christopher was just 11 years old. That kind of loss reshapes a childhood. His mother, Jean Pear, was a respected journalist and CBS correspondent, a strong, intellectually driven woman who raised her sons with independence and curiosity. Because of her career, the family traveled extensively throughout Europe. Imagine being a teenager not rooted in one hometown, but instead absorbing cultures, languages, and perspectives from around the world. That kind of upbringing often creates observational people, performers who watch before they speak. Eventually, Noth studied theater at Yale School of Drama, one of the most prestigious acting programs in the country. And Yale doesn't just teach acting, it teaches discipline, it teaches emotional precision, it teaches presence. Those traits would become the foundation of his career. Like most actors, his early years were not glamorous. Small roles, guest appearances, stage work. But something about him stood out. He had gravitas early, the kind most actors spend decades trying to develop. Then came the role that changed everything. In 1990, Christopher Noth was cast as Detective Mike Logan on Law and Order. At the time, no one knew the show would become one of the longest-running dramas in television history. But viewers immediately noticed Logan. He wasn't the typical procedural cop. He was intense, emotional, sometimes impulsive, but underneath it all, deeply human. Audiences connected with him because he felt real. Law and Order built its reputation on moral ambiguity, and Noth thrived in that space. For 5 seasons, he became one of the faces of the franchise. And here's something many people forget. Television in the early 90s didn't create overnight global celebrities the way streaming does today. Success was slower, more organic, which meant audiences built trust over time. When Noth exited the show in 1995 after contract disputes, fans were stunned. But that departure may have been the smartest career move he ever made, because it prevented typecasting and positioned him for something even bigger. A few years later, television history would call again. In 1998, HBO premiered a show that would redefine adult television storytelling, Sex and the City. And with it came a character that would follow Christopher Noth for the rest of his life, Mr. Big. Let's talk about why that role mattered so much. Big wasn't just a love interest. He was aspirational romance. Successful, elusive, emotionally guarded. The man viewers loved, and sometimes loved to hate. His chemistry with Sarah Jessica Parker created one of television's most debated relationships. Were they toxic? Were they romantic? Were they inevitable? The push and pull kept audiences invested for years, and Noth played big with restraint, never overacting, never begging for sympathy. He understood that mystery is magnetic. By the early 2000s, Christopher Noth wasn't just recognizable. He was iconic, and importantly, he crossed demographics. Men respected the authority he projected. Women debated the choices his character made. That is rare territory for an actor, but sustaining relevance in Hollywood requires reinvention. Which brings us to his next major chapter. In 2009, Noth joined The Good Wife as Peter Florrick, a disgraced politician attempting to rebuild both his career and his marriage. This role showcased something audiences hadn't fully seen before. Controlled charisma. Peter wasn't flashy, he was strategic. Watching him felt like watching someone play chess 3 moves ahead. Again, Noth excelled in moral complexity. Was Peter redeemable? Manipulative? Both? The show earned critical acclaim, and Noth proved he wasn't just a relic of earlier television eras. He was evolving with the medium. By this point, his career spanned over 2 decades. Few scandals, consistent work, industry respect. From the outside, it looked like the definition of longevity. But Hollywood careers often appear strongest right before they fracture. December 2021. Sex and the City fans were celebrating the revival series, and just like that, seeing Big again felt nostalgic, comforting. Then headlines broke. Multiple women came forward with allegations of sexual assault spanning different years. The reports spread rapidly across major media outlets, and within days, the industry reaction was immediate. Projects paused, partnerships ended, public appearances vanished. It was the kind of career halt that happens almost overnight, but is years in the making once accusations surface. Noth denied the allegations, stating the encounters were consensual. But in today's cultural climate, public perception often shifts faster than legal processes, and studios move quickly to protect brands. Peloton removed an advertisement featuring him. A planned appearance was scrapped. Other deals dissolved. It was a stunning reversal. 1 week, nostalgia. The next, crisis. And here is where the conversation becomes larger than one person. Because Hollywood has entered a different era. An era where audiences expect accountability. Where reputations are no longer controlled solely by studios. Where social awareness reshapes careers. Whether someone ultimately returns often depends on multiple factors: legal outcomes, public sentiment, industry risk tolerance. But one thing is certain: the margin for controversy is far thinner than it once was. For fans, the reaction was complicated. Some separated the actor from the characters. Others could not. Because when someone plays beloved roles for decades, viewers feel they know them. Even though acting is performance, not biography. The emotional collision between art and reality can be jarring. So what happens to a legacy when controversy enters the narrative? History shows us several paths. Some actors eventually return. Some pivot to smaller projects. Some disappear from mainstream visibility entirely. But legacy is rarely erased. Law and Order reruns still air. Sex and the City remains culturally influential. The Good Wife is still streamed and studied. Art persists, even when public opinion shifts. And this raises an uncomfortable but necessary question for viewers. Can we appreciate performances while wrestling with the person behind them? There is no universal answer. Every audience member decides individually. But culturally, we are seeing a shift toward more thoughtful consumption of media, less blind admiration, more context. Christopher Noth's story is ultimately a case study in the volatility of fame. Decades to build, moments to disrupt. It reminds us that celebrity is not permanence. It is momentum, sustained only as long as public trust remains intact. And perhaps the biggest lesson is this: The characters we invite into our living rooms feel permanent, but the people portraying them live in a far more fragile reality. As of now, Noth has kept a relatively low public profile. No major comeback, no dramatic reinvention, just distance. Whether time reshapes his career remains unknown. Hollywood has surprised us before, but regardless of what happens next, his impact on television history is undeniable. Detective Mike Logan helped define procedural drama. Mr. Big shaped romantic storytelling for a generation. Peter Florrick demonstrated the power of quiet political performance. Three very different men, one very recognizable presence. The rise was remarkable, the fall was sudden, and the final chapter may not yet be written. Because if television history has taught us anything, it's that audiences love a comeback story, but only time will tell if this becomes one.